What is going on, everybody? This is Anthony with VR 365. Welcome to another episode of our show. I believe now we're up to episode 20 of the show, VR 365 Live. It is Sunday. It is November 25th, and it is 11 a.m. Pacific time. Okay, I got to get my chat window set up over here and my topics for today's show, and we are ready to get rolling. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to start off with today, now normally Sundays we talk about it is Sunday Fun Day, and typically what we do is we kind of have a kickback, relaxed kind of a show. However, we didn't have a VR Roundtable episode this morning. We took the week off. I believe VR Roundtable will be back next Sunday with a brand new episode, and so this necessarily doesn't need to be a Sunday Fun Day. We can cover some stuff because I'm not spent. I haven't already done an episode, so I'm ready to go ahead and bang out this one. So we do have a few things that we can cover today, a couple interesting things to get into. I am going to have my thoughts on Tabletop Basketball VR. I did get an opportunity to play that. The developer did hook me up with a review / preview code for that game, so I will be talking about that early access release in a little bit. Also, a little bit later in this show, I may get into my thoughts on Arca's Path. Now, this will not be a review, but it will be my initial thoughts of Arca's Path. I've been playing it a little bit. It comes out on December 4th, kind of like my very early impressions of Arca's Path. That will probably be coming up a little bit later as well. We're also going to talk real briefly about Magic Leap 1. Is it dead on arrival? Is the Magic Leap dream already over with? We'll talk about that briefly as well. So we got a number of things to get into, but you know what? I wanted to start it off yesterday at the very end of our show yesterday. One of the things I was saying is leave a comment. Go ahead and leave a comment. Now, obviously, we have our chat window right here, and a lot of people are checking in chat. I am Ruts, had to bounce a little bit early because some family stopped by, but he will be catching this show in a replay. Yes, the stream is always archived and available there to watch later on, which you can definitely do that. But we do have Billy Gunn is in the building. New name I haven't noticed too often. Fluke is here. Conrad Lawrence, T-Dub, VR Spry Guy, Chris, Lee Wilson, Paradise is here. Oggs57, Push the Button, Scion VR, the big time Catan VR lover is here. Lethal Weasel just checking in as well. And so we got a number of people in chat. But what I wanted to do to start off today's show is let's go ahead and take a look at yesterday's video. Let's take a look at the comments on yesterday's video. So I will switch over here. This is basically just a web browser going to yesterday's video, and I'm looking at a few different comments here. I wanted to talk about some of these real quick. And one of the first comments that we have, now this is 16 hours ago, Petter Oz says next gen PSVR may launch the same day as the console if today's gen PSVR is backwards compatible. If I remember right, the patent shows both inside-out tracking and light-based camera models. Well, I mean, there's a number of things to possibly unpack from this comment here, and Petter is kind of saying that this new PlayStation VR 2.0 is going to need to have both inside-out tracking for the new technology of PSVR 2, but it's also going to need to have some kind of light-based technology to be backwards compatible with the original PlayStation VR. But I'm not looking forward to that, and I don't think that is necessarily how it has to work. Now, I believe that Sony could come up with a completely new tracking system and have nothing related to the original tracking system whatsoever, nothing related to the old PlayStation Moves controllers, nothing related to PlayStation Eye, but it could still somehow make the translation. And so it will just convert the inside-out tracking to that old system and kind of basically emulate PlayStation VR 1. And I fully expect PlayStation VR 2 to be fully backwards compatible with PlayStation VR 1 from the standpoint that you'll be able to play those games. Not that you'll be able to use a PS4 camera, not that you'll be able to use those old Move controllers or any of the equipment that you used with the first PlayStation VR, but you'll be able to play the games. The games will be backwards compatible. It will like emulate basically what the PSVR 1 tracking is doing. It'll convert it. I don't think they need to have both of them. So I'm hoping that that will be the case there. And in terms of launching on the same date, it sounds cool that it would be available day and date. That sounds really cool. PS5 is available today and PlayStation VR 2 is also available today. However, I don't really think that is going to happen, primarily because it's just too much money. It's too much money for one person to have to kick out. That is a lot of money to ask people to drop on a single day. I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe that these will be staggered launches. Okay, I need to clear my throat real quick here, so I'm going to mute my mic just for a quick sec. Okay, there we go. Much better. Had to do that. Every once in a while you start talking and you feel like a frog in your throat. You got to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some other comments that were left today. We have MC Schwartz, actually yesterday, 15 hours ago. I played a lot of VR at this point, and still to this day, when Half-Life 2 had native VR support, it's still one of the best games I've ever played. I've recently been playing through Metroid Prime via the Dolphin VR emulator, and I think it's pretty underrated as far as a VR game is concerned. Well, you know, hey, we're still waiting for that Half-Life 2 VR mod, aren't we? Although at this point in time, who knows what the hell is going on? Because I honestly remember, this probably was really 2 years ago that I was talking to a good buddy, Erwin X, and we were talking about this Half-Life 2 VR mod, and he really thought it was going to be available any given day, like 2 years ago. Or no, maybe it was a year. Okay, maybe it was a year. And I was like, nah, man, I think this is going to take forever to come out, and I think maybe it's being held back because of Valve. We really don't know what's going on with that. And some people, every once in a while, it'll hit the Vive subreddit, it'll hit the Oculus subreddit. Hey, what's going on with that Half-Life 2 VR mod, by the way? One of the developers will check in and they'll say, hey, we all have real jobs. We're doing this in our side hours, and it just takes a lot of time. So there's not necessarily any kind of mystery there. As far as Metroid Prime via the Dolphin VR emulator, I remember screwing around with the Dolphin VR emulator briefly, and Metroid Prime was one of those games I really wanted to screw around with it, and I think I kind of screwed around a little bit. But the problem with Dolphin the last time I used it is it was kind of a cluster F in terms of like getting all the settings dialed in. One of the things that we talked about, Steve Bishop was mentioning that if you're going to own a TP cast, you got to be a tinkerer. You got to be somebody that is willing to screw around, get into the settings, mess around with stuff a little bit. You got to be one of those people that is willing to screw around. And I think when it comes to the Dolphin VR emulator, it's very much the same thing. You got to be willing to take your headset off, go back to your computer, adjust something very slightly, put your headset back on. Okay, nope, take it off, adjust something again. That's kind of what you have to do to get that Dolphin VR emulator working correctly. However, if you dial everything in, it can be pretty freaking awesome, and it does give us hope for when Nintendo finally joins the VR club. Okay, Ray Pope says Apex Construct is on Steam. That's one I will definitely check out. For some reason, when I see something available for PlayStation VR, I think exclusive and never look at it again. I'm sure I'm not the only one. They really should release all platforms together to maximize sales. Wipeout was great on PlayStation, but in VR, I wouldn't be all that interested even if I had a PSVR. Kind of reminds me of Radial G, which was meh. It was too fast to take in the visuals, and it continues on and on. Ray Pope with a diatribe here. Now, first off, Apex Construct, it was on PlayStation VR as an exclusive, but it was a very short-lived exclusivity window, and then it came to Steam and everybody else pretty darn quickly after that. It wasn't a very long exclusive, but this is the risk. This is the risk that these companies are taking when they make a game exclusive. Some people turn a part of their brain off and they're not interested anymore. Catan VR, for example, that was exclusive on the Oculus Store and on Oculus Go. It later came to Steam VR, but I'm sure there's some people, they just turn their brain off to Catan VR. They're like, oh, that's exclusive. And so every time they see Catan VR mentioned again, they just completely ignore it. And that might have been the case for Ray Pope and Apex Construct. I still believe a very solid game, not a world-beating game by any stretch of the imagination, but a very solid adventure kind of a game. I kind of like the story that was going on in the game. I like the whole mother-father thing, these two kind of AIs that were warring with each other. I like the voice work of Father particularly well in that game. I don't know, for some reason I was reminded of Mark Hamill. You know, obviously from Star Wars fame, but he does a lot of voiceover work, and it kind of sounded like Mark Hamill to me. I know it wasn't Mark Hamill, but I kind of like that. That is Apex Construct. As far as Wipeout, don't sleep on Wipeout, baby. I know it is moving incredibly fast. You think you're not going to really be able to enjoy what is going on in your periphery, but you're going to be pretty amazed. There are times in Wipeout where you really have to hit the brakes and slow down to be able to take a turn, and that's when you see the scenery. My suggestion really is, if you got a buddy that has PSVR and Wipeout, see if you can get 15-20 minutes inside the headset and get a feel for it. So there is that as well. Just bouncing over to chat really quick before we check out some of these other comments here. Lethal Weasel VR says there are better setup guides for Dolphin now. So maybe that is something I should check back into, something I should think about. Okay, Scion VR says, thanks for making this Catan fanboy happy and mentioning Catan VR. And yes, it works across all platforms, including PSVR. Yeah, so Catan VR, we mentioned it yesterday, one of the better games probably of March 2018. And that was mentioned. We're working through games of the year for 2018, and we're taking our sweet time. We are marinating in this stuff. We are not in a rush. We are taking our time through the rest of this month of November and into December before we get into our own Game of the Year awards here at VR365. And so we continue to go through that. I am Ruts, who had to leave due to family commitments and is not in chat right now, but he's saying, Anthony, this was a comment he left yesterday. Anthony, if you haven't tried Skyscraper, if you haven't tried Scraper yet, talk about polish. This game is definitely up for Game of the Gear. I think he says Game of the Year here. All 12 months, in my opinion. Really enjoying it so far. This is interesting that Scraper is as good as it is, because honestly, I have gut instincts about these games before I get them, and for some reason I thought Scraper was going to kind of be a dud, and it appears that it is not a dud by any stretch of the imagination. I know Paradise Decay got into that, really liked Scraper, and I Am Ruts has played Scraper as well. Now, I do know it is going for 30 bucks. It's not exactly dirt cheap, but it's interesting how polished this game is, Scraper. The other thing that I've heard about it is, I think I was in maybe the Oculus subreddit or Vive subreddit, and the developer was commenting on some YouTubers that had played the game, and he said, you know, these guys are playing it standing up, but it's actually designed to be played sitting down. The thing about Scraper is you're actually kind of in a little cockpit. It's almost like you're in a tiny little fit car or some tiny little mobile unit that's zipping you around, and you're basically sitting down. So you can play this game sitting down. A lot of people playing it standing up. Have not had a chance to try Scraper yet. Hopefully I will get my hands on that in the not too distant future. Steve Bishop, checking in. VR Roundtable fame. Yeah, we did not have an episode this morning. In case you didn't know, we took the Thanksgiving weekend off. I forgot about it, wasn't sure yesterday, and then I checked, and yeah, we weren't having an episode today. We will be back next week. He said, listen to this very early this morning while doing some work, made me want to play Wipeout again. And you know what? I really wanted to play Wipeout yesterday, completely forgot about it, didn't get in there. But you know what? I really want to give the Persistence a little bit more of a look-see, so to speak. I know there's been a number of updates to the Persistence, and I want to kind of fire up my PSVR and check that out. The other thing I want to check out on PSVR is 2MD VR football. It now has a head-to-head mode. At least I know the PSVR version does. Now, I'm assuming the Steam version probably has it as well. I really like 2MD VR football on PlayStation VR. Plays really well, looks really good. Want to try that out as well. And I want to try some Wipeout as well. And so Steve Bishop said he wanted to get back in there. Now we have Lance Tirish chart. He says, you could not possibly be more wrong. We support Steam not because we are clinging to the platform for dear life. Supporting Steam is taking a stand against having to cling to a platform, which is the idea we hate. And Lance, I got to disagree with you here. Lance, I believe you are so locked in to being a fan of Steam that you cannot see the forest for the trees, basically, is what I think here. Look, Steam is a platform like any other. Steam is a platform that gets its psychological hooks in you like any other. I know we want to believe in this dream that Steam is the most open, wonderful platform on planet Earth. Oh my God, they love developers. They are so open and so generous. We love Steam. We all love Steam. We all scream for ice cream. Okay, my take on Steam, it's a walled garden like anybody else. It just has wide open doors for you to come into that walled garden, but it's still a walled garden. And the argument that Steve makes is, Steve was saying this on one of the VR Roundtable episodes, if he were to create his own VR headset, it would not work immediately with Steam. They would have to contact Valve and they would have to give them some information, and it's not a completely open platform. Stop kidding yourselves. Steam is just a platform a lot of people love. And look, I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this because, again, I know you guys are so freaking invested in Steam. But, you know, clear your eyelids is what I'm trying to say here. But let me move on because I'm going to get myself into big trouble if I keep going. Okay, Ryan Haley says, great show, though there is no better game than Onward. Well, Onward ranked #1, I believe, in one of our most, I think on the HTC Vive rankings at VRGameRankings.com, I believe Onward is numero uno on the HTC Vive rankings. That may have been the first time that it has hit #1. A lot of people love Onward, but it did come out before 2018. So in terms of like the 2018 talk, we're talking about games that came out in this calendar year. Conrad Lawrence, as we continue to bounce through all of these comments, this is nice. I love the fact that so many comments were left yesterday. This is good. I asked for a lot of comments and you guys delivered, so that is awesome. He says, West Coast is the best coast? I think everything is listed as Pacific time because people on the West Coast are confused by time zones. Yeah, I'm joking. You know, I'm joking. I'm being facetious. You know, I'm screwing around here when I'm talking about the West Coast, the left coast, you know, I like butter on my toast is the best coast. I'm joking around with all that stuff, but sometimes I don't smile or sometimes I'm not obvious with my jokes. My apologies there. VR Spry Guy says, I'm looking forward to finding out what your game of the year is. Mine is a pancake game adapted for VR. Gee, I wonder what game that is. Maybe the developer starts with an N possibly for that game. Maybe they were just acquired by another company recently. I mean, that's my guess there. You know, I honestly don't know for sure what my game of the year is yet. But, you know, I'm looking forward to that as well. And that's why we're taking our sweet time with this. I think that's the way to go. Take your sweet time. And Jay is checking in and he's saying, pro tip, pronounce, now I'm going to get this wrong. McLaren versus McLaren. Okay, yeah, McLaren. Don't pronounce that name too often, and I screw up pronunciations all the freaking time. That's one of the downsides about coming up here on YouTube and putting yourself on blast for the world. I mispronounce things all the time. I maybe use wrong words. I maybe even create words out of thin air, a la Mike Tyson. Do you remember those great Mike Tyson interviews back in the late 90s where he would create a word out of nowhere, but just absolutely hilarious and awesome? Used to love those old Mike Tyson interviews. And Luca Cambianica says, hey, what is up? So yeah, those are the comments. We spent a lot of time on the comments, but you know what? I don't mind doing that every once in a while. I think it's a good thing. Okay, so one of the things we can talk about today is we can talk about Tabletop Basketball VR. Now, this did arrive on November 22nd. I've been talking about this game for a while because you know what? I got to admit it. I am a sports fan, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I used to be a really big sports fan. And back in like the PlayStation 1 days and the PlayStation 2 days, I was a sports junkie. I would play these NBA Live games, NBA 2K. I would play Madden. I would play these baseball games. I'd be playing online against some of my buddies. Was really into this type of stuff. And I think eventually we're going to have to bring this experience to VR. And when I saw some screenshots of Tabletop Basketball VR and I saw like the logo and a little bit of video and stuff for it, I thought, I don't know, maybe this could be the first glimpse at bringing this type of game into VR. So I was interested. It is available now. It costs 10 bones. It is in early access, and the developer was gracious enough to give me a key to the game. Okay, let me go ahead and throw on a Tabletop Basketball trailer here so we can have that on the background here while I get into it. And so I want to go ahead and talk about this Tabletop Basketball VR. I actually have some notes that I took. And one of the things that I do in relationship to a lot of these games is a lot of times I will make a list of positives and negatives. And so I'll be playing the game, and as I'm playing the game, I'll notice something about the game and I'll take my headset off and, you know, I'll type under the positive column or the negative column to kind of remind me of what is going on here. And Tabletop Basketball VR, oh my goodness, guys, I unfortunately have very little to put into the positive column. I mean, very little. I feel bad. I don't look forward to this. I really, truly do not look forward to this. I want to find the positives in things, if at all possible. And sometimes I am scraping the bottom of the barrel to try to find positives. Now, here's what I wrote down in regards to positives. Basically, the only positive that I have is kind of what I was talking about a minute ago, that I thought this might be our first glimpse at what developers are going to do to bring sports games, and I'm talking about team-based sports games, into VR. Because there's two different ways to think about this, and this is kind of a little side rant here for just a minute here. This is a Sunday fun day. We do have some time, so let's go ahead and get into this. Now, you've got people that play FIFA all day long. I know I got a large audience that is in the UK, and FIFA is the game. Football. In fact, I was watching a football game yesterday. It was Chelsea against somebody, Tottenham, I think, and Tottenham just smacked that ass. I mean, they were killing Chelsea in a major way. There was that Korean dude, Son, that goal that he made, that shit was awesome. I mean, he just blazed around those people and scored a goal. But look, I know FIFA soccer is very popular in the UK. And you got people that have played FIFA forever, and they play with their best friends, and you know, they sit on the couch. They might have some local head-to-head gameplay, or they're playing somebody that is in another location. They're playing online. Here in the United States, Madden football is a really huge thing. We've got Madden tournaments. People play Madden like crazy. Of course, we had that disaster in Florida where somebody shot up a Madden tournament. A couple people died. That was absolutely awful, and our thoughts go out to all the family members that were affected by that. The people, you know, that was freaking absolutely awful. It's unfortunate I even thought about that right now. Then we have other games. You got like the NBA 2K series. A lot of people play that. You got MLB The Show on PlayStation, a baseball game. Now, what I'm talking about here, though, is there's a lot of people, they sit together, they play these games, and if they're going to make the transition to VR, their favorite games need to make the transition. Now, one of the ways to do this is you put the player into the game physically, like they're standing on the field, or they're standing on the court with LeBron, or they're standing on the pitch, they're standing on the football field, whatever it happens to be, right? And you surround them 360 degrees, and you put them in the shoes of the quarterback, or the pitcher, or the midfielder, or whatever it happens to be. And that is one way to do it, but another way to do it is third person. And one of the things I've noticed in VR is sometimes I'm playing these VR games and there's little guys running around, and it looks like holograms. It really does. For example, 10 Hearts. You can get really close to those little soldiers walking around, and it looks like little hologram soldiers are walking around. And so one of the reasons I was so interested in this game, Tabletop Basketball VR, is I thought, you know, is it going to be like almost playing NBA Live or NBA 2K on a table that is right in front of me with little holograms running around, and I can look at them and I could see them moving and running around? How freaking cool would that be? And then you would still be able to play the game normal style. You'd have a full view of the court or the field or whatever it is. You'd be able to play another person competitively. Yeah, we're going to have those full body immersive experiences like Virtual Reality Football Club and 2MD VR Football, where they try to put you in the shoes of the actual player, but at the same time, this is another way to do it. That's why I was so excited about this and why I was interested in this. Okay, here we go. Now, in relationship to this game, let me tell you, this one is bad. Bad, bad, bad. One of the worst, honestly, one of the worst games I've played recently. And I hate to say this because, look, I know this developer. Red Zone Studios, I don't know how many people are in their development team. It kind of sounds like it's a very small team, like maybe one dude, a couple of dudes, a handful of dudes, gals, whoever that are working on this game. And look, I understand blood, sweat, tears. I understand it. Dedicating years of your life to something, giving your all to something. And I'm sure this guy, the people that were behind this game, they gave their all, blood, sweat, and tears, worked hard on this thing, and this was their passion project, and it's probably very near and dear to their hearts. And I don't want to rip this game a new one, but I gotta do it. I gotta just be straight up honest, because my allegiance is to my viewership, not to these developers, and I gotta be straight up honest. Now, this is in early access. Maybe it'll improve by dramatic leaps and bounds. It is possible. It's within the realm of potentiality. However, oh man, this game's got some issues. Okay, so number one, it is 3-on-3. I didn't really pay attention to this in the videos, but if you look at the videos, it's 3-on-3. It isn't 5-on-5. So that is strike number one. Strike number two is every player is a clone. There's one character model, and you have a character model wearing a different color maybe than the other team, but that is it. There is one character model in this game. It is 3-on-3. The other major problem is there's a lot of glitches, a lot of issues. Sometimes players will dribble out of bounds and they're not called out of bounds. Sometimes they'll pass a ball out of bounds and then they just bring it right. You know, a lot of weird things that don't make logical sense are happening in this game as well. But I think the biggest single crime here, like this could have still been somewhat redeemable if there was some kind of zoom in feature, because what's the point of playing this game in VR if there's nothing VR about it? Because for me, I'm playing this game, it's a table that's sitting there, and there is no way for me to get closer to the table. I tried moving way back, centering my view, and then like crawling over there, and what it does is the table just moves away. So you cannot get within inches of these players, which is the way you should be able to do it. You should be able to look at this basketball court. You should be able to zoom in and zoom out. You know, zoom into the action, zoom out to the action. You should be able to get up off your chair and kind of crawl and look at the little players running around and see their animations. You can't do any of that, and that is mind-boggling to me. I mean, I don't get it. Why is this in VR? Like, see this view right here? I never saw a view like this. I never saw anything like this. I never saw this view, never saw any of these views. I don't know. I went into the options. You know, I tried to change some options and see if I could change camera angles or anything. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but as far as I could tell, I could not get closer to the game or get into the game. The one nice thing though is they do let you use an Xbox 360 controller, so I went ahead and switched to an Xbox 360 controller because it felt more natural to me. The actual game of basketball is not very good. It's like PlayStation 1 / PlayStation 2 era basketball in terms of the actual gameplay. Honestly, you could play NBA Live 95 on your Super Nintendo, which came out way back in 1994, like November of 94, NBA Live 95, an awesome game on the Super Nintendo, one of my favorites back in the days. And honestly, it has maybe slightly better gameplay than this because it's fully 5-on-5, and there's just not much you can do here. Let me see some of the other things I was crying about in terms of this game. Oh my God, the announcer, okay? The announcer keeps saying, "This guy's a legend," over and over and over again. You'll dribble the ball out of bounds and it'll say, "This guy's a legend." You'll pass the ball to somebody, it'll completely miss them and the ball goes out of bounds. "This guy's a legend." The announcer says it over and over again. Now, here's the good news. The good news is you can go into the options and actually turn the announcer. You can hit the minus button and turn the announcer all the way off. Thank goodness there is that. One thing I wrote down here is I said maybe the devs should have made this a 2-on-2 game, more of a street style basketball game, almost like a pickup basketball game, you know, in like different neighborhood courts and stuff as the backgrounds, and then you could zoom on it. Like, why have a 3-on-3? Either do 5-on-5 or don't bother with it at all. Hell, you can make it 1-on-1 like Larry Bird versus Michael Jordan way back in the Apple IIe days. You know, maybe go a different route here. And that's pretty much it. I've kind of given, I've really given Tabletop Basketball VR way too much time. But in explaining why I was interested in this, it's the reason I'm interested in this is I want to think of how is FIFA going to come to VR? How is NBA 2K going to come to VR? How is Madden going to come to VR? How is MLB The Show going to come to VR? Now, I'm not saying don't have an experimental VR first-person mode. Do that. But a quicker way to get these things into VR is to give us third-person. And my thought on this is be like your Godzilla, you know, your Godzilla or your King Kong, and you're sitting right next to the court or you're sitting right next to the soccer field. You should be able to peer down and look at the little holograms running around. That is the way it should be. That's the way that we can do this. It could be absolutely magical. The other thing I think developers need to do, brass tactics, baby. Raising the table and lowering the table is absolutely effortless in brass tactics, or grabbing the table and bringing it closer to you. That is the same thing that should be done with these sports games. I want to play Madden 2019 or whatever the hell the next one's going to be called. I want to raise the table up like this so I see little Drew Brees running around on the field throwing a pass, and I see the little ball go up in the air and land into the receivers, you know, catch it and touchdown and you know, yada, yada, yada. That's the way to do these sports games. All right, I know I've wasted way too much time on Tabletop Basketball, but still, I give the developer some love. Red Zone Studios, dude was willing to give me a key. And he was willing to deal with the potential criticism that came, and criticism came in a major, major way. But, you know, there's no, it's not impossible that this couldn't be repaired a little bit. Add a zoom feature, improve some of the playabilities, work on the bugs. Who knows? I mean, maybe they can salvage this thing to some degree. And it's only $10, you know, they're not charging a fortune for this. All right, what else did we want to get into here? Well, maybe I should check out some of the comments in chat real quick. Let me look over here and see what some of the comments are. Okay, T-Dub says, I could see 2 versus 2 ice hockey being good on a tabletop like this one, each controller for each of your players. Yeah, hockey. I didn't mention hockey. NHL hockey. There's people that religiously play these games, and if we're ever going to get them into VR, we got to give them a way to get into VR, and you give them away by zooming in on it. Kev Gretz says, I get the impression Anthony doesn't like this game very much. No, I didn't. I did not like it very much. It is what it is. Out of Bounds Discovery says, I'd go for a PS4 basketball game over this. I'd go for a freaking PlayStation 1 game over this. Honestly, like I said, I would rather play NBA Live 95 on my Super Nintendo. That's as harsh as I can get. That's as harsh as I can get right now. Let's see. Orlor says, I remember my Destruction Derby game on the original PlayStation. The announcer kept on yelling, that will make a great replay. Don't think there was an option to turn him off either. Yeah, absolutely. That's the last key that Anthony ever gets. Honesty never pays. That's SAMIK81. No, you know what? SAMIK81, here's my defense. Look, I'm Mr. Happy Guy, right? I try to look for the happy things. I try to look for the positivity now. And MainFan has told me sometimes I'm too positive, like I'm looking for too many positives and I need to be a bit harsher. I think honesty eventually does pay off. I really do. So I'm going to continue to be honest. And if I miss out on keys because of that, tough titty, that is the way of the world. Okay, let me see. I had some other things I want to show. I do have some trailers. Actually, why don't we go to Magic Leap real quick? So Magic Leap, they introduced a new video. They made a new video for their Magic Leap YouTube channel. It is called Avatar Chat on Magic Leap 1, very similar to kind of like the Facebook stuff that we have with Oculus, kind of like with our avatars and stuff like that. Magic Leap has a very similar thing. Let's go ahead and check out this little mini commercial for Avatar Chat, and then we can come back and talk briefly about Magic Leap. Is Magic Leap a dead duck? Is it already over for Magic Leap? Let's talk about that briefly. Yeah, I know this is your favorite show ever, right? Sports games and Magic Leap. Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to happen on today's episode of VR 365. All right, let's go ahead and check this out real quick.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Kai, what's up? Oh, hey, Chef.
What's up, guys? Okay.
Awesome. Looks good.
All right, guys, signing out.
All right, see ya.
Alrighty, well that is the Magic Leap introducing avatars, the Magic Leap chat thing. And yeah, so this is a new video. Now, why am I bringing this up? It's not so much to show this off. I mean, there's nothing really magical that's going on right here, right? You got a guy making dinner, you got some chick there with her laptop, another dude with his laptop. And basically in this commercial, they're like, hi, how's it going? Hey, what's up? And then, okay, bye. That's pretty much the gist of it right there. Not like a lot of in-depth things going on, although maybe they're sharing some recipes here or something like that. But yeah, that is the avatar chat for Magic Leap, but I'm not really talking about this. What I'm talking about is if you go to this video on YouTube, this is on the Magic Leap channel. This is one of the bigger videos that they've released recently, and there is less than 5,000 views on this video. This video has been available for 10 days. And the last time I checked, it had like 4,500 views, something like that, maybe 4,600, 4,700 views in 10 days on Magic Leap's primary channel. And to me, what that says is there was this gigantic hype balloon for Magic Leap, and somebody just popped that shit, and the hype is gone. One of the questions I have about Magic Leap, and let me put on a little bit of a different Magic Leap trailer here. We don't want to see this avatar chat, and I'm not going to spend a long time on this, guys. It's going to be very short, but I just wanted to bring this up really quick. But one of the things I wanted to bring up briefly about Magic Leap 1 is I believe like the hype has left the building on this product, and I'm wondering about the long-term future for Magic Leap 1. Is there a long-term future? Is this company going to be able to survive long enough to make enough money to like maintain, like to stay viable in the marketplace? Is Magic Leap dead? Are they dead in the water already? And if you talk to somebody like Noah, and I don't think Noah's in chat today, but if you talk to somebody that is really into Magic Leap, they'll say, well, wait a minute here. Look, this is not a consumer product yet. They're not even trying to be a consumer product yet. And this is the Magic Leap 1. It's not even consumer facing. There's going to be a Magic Leap 2, and there's going to be a Magic Leap 3, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, somebody has to buy this shit. Money has to come in at some point in time. And I was reading a thread that was on the Magic Leap subreddit a little while back where somebody kind of asked a very similar question. And Karo Gutag came into that thread and said, based on doing some math on how many employees Magic Leap has, how much money they've raised up to this point, how much money they're typically paying for their employees and for their factories and for their office space and the leasing and all of that, he believes that this company, Magic Leap, is either going to have to raise some significant money next summer, or they're going to have massive layoffs next summer to stay viable. We're talking about summer 2019, that the cash is going to start to run out on this. And so Magic Leap, if they're going to continue to be a viable company, they're going to have to transition in some way, shape, or form. It's going to have to transition, in my opinion, to medical, to architecture, to automotive. They are going to have to transition away from a consumer market into commercial. It's going to have to go commercial if they have any hope of remaining a viable platform that is going to survive long enough to eventually have a consumer product. Now, I'm not saying that consumer AR is never going to happen. It's going to happen. It's a runaway train. I mean, there's no question whatsoever in my mind. In fact, AR is going to dominate. It's going to dominate VR. I know some of you VR lovers out there, you hate VR. I mean, you hate AR. You're just not into AR. And you think AR is not going to be about gaming, and VR is gaming, and VR is going to be entertainment, and AR is for everything else. I've got news for you. AR is going to kill everything. Absolutely, including VR. AR will kill VR. VR is going to be relegated to your home theater. VR, 25 years from now, VR will be the home theater of the future, where you'll go into a an exclusively VR experience. It's going to be like your big screen TVs with 7 speakers and subwoofers. That's what VR is going to be. AR is going to dominate everything else, but we are a long way away from that. And is Magic Leap going to stay viable enough to even get to that point? Or is Magic Leap basically just waking up sleeping giants like Google and Apple and everybody and Microsoft and everybody else. Like Microsoft didn't even try. Did you guys notice with the HoloLens? They didn't even try to go down a consumer road. They were smart enough to realize that it is like 7-8 years away before they can even go down that road. Magic Leap kind of tried to go down a consumer road, and a lot of the stuff that they're showing off is a consumer related thing. I don't know, man. I don't want to hate on Magic Leap. Again, I'm Mr. Positivity, right? I know this show has been all about some negativity today, but I don't want Magic Leap to die. You know, I'd love Magic Leap to continue. Now, their original promise of this dream of just bringing real things into your reality, and you're going to look at it and be like, oh my God, that looks so freaking real, and it's standing in my own house. You know, that dream didn't really happen because we have this small field of view. The graphics are not like freaking photo real or anything like that. So it just, they didn't deliver us what they promised us. Now that looks pretty cool. That Tanani stuff looks pretty cool. And there are some demos that are going on this little video here that are pretty cool. I mean, if I had a Magic Leap one, I'm sure I could have like the Angry Birds. That looks kind of cool. There's some cool stuff and I would screw around with it, but it simply is not ready for prime time. And I don't know if they're going to be able to survive. So anyway, that is my Magic Leap thoughts over there. And 10-6 says, AR is going to die unless they can get full 110 degrees at minimum. They're going to have 220 degrees AR eventually. It's not dying. VR Spry Guy says, I still think AR is 10 plus years away. It could very well be. Absolutely. It could absolutely be 10 plus years away. Here goes Anthony again, basing things on nothing. Well, remember, it's not Anthony. It's Nostradamus Jr., baby. And my predictions are solid gold. Airman 929565 says, I don't think I hate AR. It just doesn't look ready for prime time. Yeah, it's not. And Tezram says, all right, but first I want to see AR hardware that is able to draw black color. AR is an additive experience. Yeah, they eventually will have to figure out the black thing. That is absolutely true. Or maybe some kind of shielding where they can make, somehow they can make black and then do that. But yeah, anyways, that's kind of the little Magic Leap thing here. Not a big deal. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it. That is my thoughts on that. I think it does look pretty scary. I just don't know. I'm not a long-term believer in Magic Leap because I think they would need to survive for another 4 or 5 years to be viable, and I don't think they're going to raise enough money to be able to do that unless they can transition to commercial, medical, architecture, you know, those kinds of things, automotive, designing, prototyping. That's where they're going to have to pivot. Consumers not going to be a viable target for them for a number of years. And when it is, Apple's going to come calling, and so it's going to get very dangerous there. Okay, so I had a couple of trailers that I wanted to get into real quick here. Let's see, what trailer did I want to mention real quick? Okay, well, one game that has recently made the journey from the Daydream platform to Oculus Go is Narrows. It is available for the Oculus Go. Why don't we go ahead and check out a trailer for this? This is a Daydream trailer for it, but it is now available, I believe, on Oculus Go and Gear VR for $8.99. Let's go ahead and check this trailer out.
Welcome to the Narrows. You're the captain of the Lion's Pride, the finest pirate vessel ever to have sailed the Caribbean. With you, your motley crew.
Aye, Captain. Good to see you.
Together you sailed across the 7 seas in search of glory, loot, and adventure.
Ammunition is stocked and our guns ready for action.
Fire in the hole!
These buccaneers want to spar with you, Captain.
Time to make a trade.
Now, lads! Get to the broadside! There she blows! Ship ahoy! What be your orders, Captain?
Alrighty, so yeah, that is Narrows. It is currently available for the Oculus Go and for Gear VR. It has made the transition from Daydream over to these other platforms. It is by Resolution Games, or Resolution. Don't know anything about it, not sure if it's too good. Looks pretty colorful and interesting. Looks like it might be kind of fun. That is Narrows. Okay, so now let's see. We've only got about 10 minutes or so left in our show. And one thing I did want to get into today a little bit is I wanted to talk a little bit about Arca's Path. So why don't I go ahead and grab an Arca's Path trailer, throw it on the screen while we talk about it here. Now, Arca's Path, I can't review this game. This game is embargoed. I can't, there's certain exclusions about what I can talk about in relationship to Arca's Path. For example, I can basically talk about like the first 15 levels of Arca's Path, but I can't talk about a lot of it. There are some exclusions and stuff in terms of this. But I wanted to talk about this briefly because Arca's Path is coming on December 4th. This is probably one of the big games that still remain in terms of like what other big games are still coming this year. Arca's Path is one of them. It's going to be available on PlayStation VR, on the Oculus Rift, on HTC Vive. So it's going to be out there on pretty much all the different platforms out there. And I was able to get a preview code for this game and able to try it out a little bit. And so I'm going to give kind of just my initial impressions on the game. Now, one of the things that really kind of jumped out to me about this game is the control. And this is going to drive a lot of people crazy. Like, there's a lot of people, they're going to find out that you control this game exclusively with your head. You do not need to use a controller. Once you start playing this game, you can basically set your controllers on the ground. You use your head to control this ball that is rolling around, and that is going to be an instant turnoff for a lot of people. And in fact, it was an instant turnoff for me. When I first started playing this, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster. I do not want to control this with my damn head. Come on, give me some joystick control. Let me get into the options. There's got to be an options, right? There's got to be somewhere in the options where I can turn on joystick control for Arca's Path. I could not find it in any option whatsoever. I'm not seeing an option for that. And what I'll say here about Arca's Path is for the first couple, like for the first 4 or 5 minutes I was playing it, I was like, oh man, this is not good. This is not good. But you know what? After about 5 or 6 minutes, I adapted to the controls and I got a feel for the controls. Now, see that triangle? Look on the screen when they're showing some gameplay and you see this ball that is rolling around, you're going to see a triangle that is very near to where this ball is rolling. And basically what your head does in this game is your head is controlling this triangle. And where you put this triangle in relation to your little rolling ball, it's going to control how fast your rolling ball is going, and it's going to control where your rolling ball is moving to. And I got to tell you that, I mean, I'm only commenting that this is first impressions, not a review again. And so I can only comment on some of the early levels that I played in this game. But the music, the visuals, the polish, the spit shine, it is there. And I actually was enjoying myself quite a bit in rolling this ball around and trying to navigate these different courses. It's basically like courses that you're going through here. You're trying to guide your ball and eventually get to the end line here. Now there's little crystals that you're trying to collect along the way, and if you collect every single crystal that is on these tracks, you will unlock a time trial mode. Time trial mode is embargoed. I can't talk about that. But basically, that's kind of part of the game. So you're going through these tracks, you're trying to find the crystals, and you're trying to get the end. You're trying to get to the end of the level. You're trying to guide your little ball to the end of the level, and that's basically how Arca's Path works. Now, the one thing that I found incredibly frustrating, though, is I got through the first 4 or 5 levels without too many troubles whatsoever. But as you get to like the 6th level, the 7th level, difficulty starts to increase exponentially, and it really comes down to that triangle there. You got to be very careful with that triangle, because you'll notice some of these levels, there's stuff that lines the sides, and you could be going really fast and bump into the sides, and your little ball is going to stay on the path. However, there's other areas of these courses where nothing is along the sides. It's completely open, and if you go off the edge, boom, you're off the edge. You're starting over. You have to go back to your last checkpoint. And when you're controlling it with your head and you're trying to navigate it through all these little situations, you got to be very careful. You know, you're controlling this little triangle thing that's on the ground, and you're guiding your ball. You have to be very careful. You have to be very delicate with it. And that's where controlling it with your head can be a bit frustrating. But I do want to say, hopefully they have a demo for this, because I know that a huge portion of the VR community is going to write this game off immediately, because they're going to be like, head-based controls? Are you freaking crazy? Now, here's the thing. If they put an option in there that allowed you to control this game with your thumbstick, it's going to be way too goddamn easy. So they built the game with this head control belt in mind, and they were probably thinking, you know, Dream Reality Interactive, when they designed this game, they probably wanted it to be the kind of game that anybody can play, that your grandma, your mom, your brother, your sister, your Uncle Joe, anybody can get in here and play this game, because it doesn't use any controllers, no hands, Mom, and you just use your head and you just guide this little ball around. And at first I was like, oh man, my neck, I'm going to get a kink in my neck when I'm playing this game. I was worried about that. But I hope there's a demo, because I hope a lot of people can try it and play it for more than just 5 or 6 minutes. Get past the initial shock over the fact you are controlling this with your head. And it's actually pretty damn good. I was expecting, again, this was another one of these games where I thought I would come on here and talk a lot of smack about it, but actually I'm pretty excited for it. So, you know, just first impressions, early levels. We'll definitely be covering this game more as we lead up to the December 4th launch, when then I will give more of a review for it. And I'm kind of curious what the price is going to be. I don't know if it's already out there what this game is going to be priced at, but those are my early impressions on Arca's Path, which is coming out on December 4th. It's not super far away. Okay, let's see what some people are talking about over here in chat. Let's see, Paradise. Okay, so Paradise has played this. Chris says, isn't Daydream dead? Well, it's still alive, but maybe by the hairs of its chinny chin chin, it might be alive. Tessrum said, that's pretty funny, playing a pirate game with only one hand. Lee talking about Narrows. Lee Wilson says, HoloLens is too expensive to improve. Can I talk? God, I cannot say this word. Never mind, forget it. I'm not even going to say it. The all-in-one design has you buying CPU, GPU, RAM, etc. to improve display and sensor control tech. I think we really need to wait for HoloLens 2.0, which supposedly is going to have a doubling in the field of view, and the inside-out tracking should be next-gen and improved, and hopefully give us a preview of what the next-gen inside-out tracking is going to look like for Windows Mixed Reality 2.0. So I am kind of interested in that. Paradise Decay says, I played the Arca's Path demo at EGX in Birmingham this year, and it was really good. Yeah, and I'm sure, Paradise, I'm sure when you first got into that demo and you thought, oh shit, I got to use my head, I exclusively got to use my head, you might have been worried about it for a couple of minutes there, but as you continue to play it, you realize, this kind of makes sense. This is designed in this way. It's not too bad. SAMIK81 says, I ordered Oculus Go on a Black Friday deal. I should get it early next week. This game could be fun to play with. Yeah, absolutely. Arca's Path should work awesome on the Oculus Go. In fact, honestly, that may be the best place to play this game on Oculus Go. The visuals are actually good. It's got an interesting artistical style. There is a lot of polish. This is a a nice production here. This is not an indie-ass indie game. Dream Reality Interactive, these people know what they're doing, and there's some nice touches with the cinematics and with the music and kind of how it leads in to the different levels. It's pretty freaking cool, and I think all of that will translate very well to the Oculus Go, and this should play very well on the Oculus Go, and it probably will be a little bit cheaper on the Oculus Go. A lot of Oculus Go games tend to price themselves a little bit cheaper, more in kind of like this disposable, snackable pricing, like Narrows is $8.99, Eclipse Edge of Light is $9.99, I believe Covert is $9.99. So a lot of Oculus Go games tend to price themselves a little bit more on the cheaper side, which that helps as well. Fluke says, I really can't get hyped for a ball rolling game. Yeah, I was not hyped at all. I absolutely wasn't hyped. I really hope there's a demo for this, because I think this is one of those games where if there is a demo and if they give you a long enough amount of time to work with the demo and get over the head-based controls, I think people might turn a corner on this game and might be like, wow, this was one of these games that I was not expecting to be interested in. Tesram says, instant turn off. Damn right. Damn Skippy, right? Yeah, absolutely. 10 says, I'm turned off instantly by this form of control, and I knew it. This is what's going to happen. Bullet Ape, head control equals no buy. This is what Dream Reality Interactive is going to have to deal with. Dr. Dave Renard, he used to work for London Studios for Sony, worked on PlayStation VR Worlds, worked on some of the best VR games that London Studio was working on, and started his own company, Dream Reality Interactive. This is his first game. This is built for VR straight up. This is designed for VR 100%. It's designed for head control, and I know, look, I know, I'm in the same boat as all of you guys, and I thought, no freaking way. And for the first 5 minutes, I was convinced. I was thinking of just taking the headset off and stopping it, but I continued to play, and I started to realize, okay, this kind of works. This actually does kind of work. My only question is, Dream Reality Interactive, are you going to cover the chiropractic fees for my neck? Because I could see my neck kind of being like, I kind of need a massage. I've been playing Arca's Path. I need a massage. I absolutely need a massage. Is Dream Reality Interactive going to cover the cost of the massages that I'm going to need for my neck? But anyway, guys, that's pretty much going to go ahead and do it for this episode of VR 365555555. Let me go ahead and grab just my little outro background real quick. Throw that on. And yeah, so that's going to do it. This wasn't actually a Sunday fun day. Instead, we kind of went down the negativity path, didn't we? Tabletop basketball, negative as hell. Magic Leap, the future, not looking so bright. And then Arca's Path, controlled by your head. So kind of a little bit of a negative show here. But you know what? We continue to bang these babies out. And I will be back tomorrow, Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I will see everybody back then. Hopefully some exciting news and stuff. And if not, we can get into the best games of April 2018. Yeah, as we continue to move through the Game of the Year discussion, we marinate in this stuff. Let's appreciate all these great games that have come down our road. And you know what? That reminds me, I need to get into Wipeout and appreciate my March game of 2018. Spoilers, Wipeout is the game for March for me, and I want to get back in there, try that out. But I really want to try 2MD VR football, the head-to-head mode. Want to try that out. I also want to try some of the persistence, which has been updated. So probably we'll talk a little bit about that stuff tomorrow on Monday's show, as well as whatever news stories come out of the woodwork. All right, that's going to go ahead and do it. Remember, guys, subscribe. Jim Hall is going to be pissed off. Halfway to the show, I'm supposed to tell you, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, tell a friend, those kinds of things. It really does help this channel out. We want to get this channel a little bit more recognized out there, more people knowing about it. It helps the future viability, the long-term viability of this channel is critical, mission critical. So subscribe, like, and leave comments. It was great yesterday. We got 12 comments on yesterday's episode. We need to continue to do that. So if you got comments about Tabletop Basketball VR, if you got comments about controlling Arca's path with your head, if you've got comments on the viability of Magic Leap 1 and Magic Leap in general, if you got comments on what I said where AR is going to kill everything, including VR, yes, that's actually going to happen. I know you guys don't want to think about that, but look, you got about 20 years, so don't worry about it. And even when they do kill VR, you're still going to be able to go into your VR room just like people go into their home theater rooms and watch on a big giant screen. You can't see my screen now that I've closed my view a little bit more, but people are going to still go into their little rooms and they're going to play VR. It's not going to be completely dead, but AR will pretty much dominate everything else, although it's going to take a hell of a long time. Alrighty guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for today's episode. I will see everybody tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time. See you guys then. Later.